day and age. I'd like to welcome everybody here. My name is Andy Kahn. I'm Director of Victim Services and Victim Advocacy for Crime Stoppers of Houston. If you were here a bit earlier, you got to hear the remarkable sound. I know I'll butcher your name, but I'll do the best I can. That's what I always tell everybody. Tsunami Jain on the violin. We appreciate everything and you taking your time to come here. I want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. We have a nice cold front. Everybody understands we got that now, so get to break out all that good stuff here. Thank you for joining us tonight. The Interfaith Advisory Council. This is an evening of remembrance, caring, and hope. And it's our pleasure to host this at Crime Stoppers of Houston. I hope you enjoy our beautiful building and everything that we have to offer. And just on a personal note, you know, the Violence Against Women Act has to be funded. And right now it's sitting in the Senate. And we need to get that out because so many programs, particularly on domestic violence and human trafficking and sexual assault, depend on that act and that appropriations. So I would urge everybody here today to do whatever they can to get with our elected officials and make sure that that act does pass. I'd like to thank our partners, Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, ABDA, and on a special note, let's give retiring CEO Sherry Kendall, Sherry Stanley, give her a special. She's truly been a remarkable trendsetter, lead setter in domestic violence. And even though I know you're retiring, I know somehow you're still going to find some way to contribute. And if not, I will certainly do what I do best and pester you in a way that you can contribute on that as well. We'd also like to thank Dia for also being here and all the wonderful organizations that help support, because without you, none of us can be here today. We're truly blessed in Houston and Harris County to have so many different agencies on so many different functions and so many different levels to work with domestic violence, human trafficking, and so on. We cannot do that without you. So as they say, we're kind of passing the torch right here. In a vernacular, I want to introduce Micah Coulter, the new CEO of ABDA. Got some big shoes to fill out. The podiums are from New York, so it's hard for me to stand behind them.
I almost want to invite Sherry here to do one last speech, but I'll go ahead and do my part this evening. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you, Andy and Crime Stoppers, for hosting us. I want to say to all my colleagues in the room who represent so many different organizations that help to serve the victims of domestic abuse in our community, thank you for being here, and thank you for supporting all of the work. Thank you for all the work that you all do. Among the people who serve this community, ABDA provides legal representation to victims of domestic abuse, as well as battery intervention and prevention program for those who are abusing. We are proud to work with all of you so that together we can provide comprehensive services to those in need. Tonight's evening of Remembrance, Caring, and Hope is part of the many activities that's taking place in this city as a part of National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And domestic violence is defined by the willful, abusive behavior, part of a systemic pattern of asserting power and control toward an intimate partner. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men experience domestic violence in this country. Domestic violence is in every faith community, race, culture, neighborhood across our city. Our faith communities play such an important role in supporting victims of domestic abuse. Faith leaders are often the first responders to incidences of domestic violence. ABDA, DIA, the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council, and Crime Stoppers are pleased to support the Interfaith Advisory Council in this event tonight. Tonight, we join together to remember victims, to care for survivors, and to hope for a future without violence. Our hope is driven by the work we all do every day, increasingly in greater and greater collaborations with our governmental, judicial, and law enforcement partners. It's my honor tonight to introduce to all of you our Mayor, Sylvester Turner.
Thank you, Marsha. And let me just say it is an honor to be here. And Sherry, let me extend my very best to you on your retirement. But what I say to people all the time, especially when it's a part of your DNA, you never really retire. You just kind of switch positions, but the activism remains the same. The passion is always there. Again, let me thank you for inviting me to join you on this evening of Remembrance, Caring, and Hope. And one of the reasons why I wanted to be here was just to highlight the importance of this occasion. So good evening to everyone, and please join me again in thanking AFTA and all the domestic violence service providers from across Houston for the work they do to help eradicate domestic violence. I want to applaud you for that. Tonight, fortunately, we gather to remember the 19 people who lost their lives to domestic violence this year. That's 19 too many. One life lost to domestic violence is one too many. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the grieving loved ones of these victims. And here in Houston, we are committed to changing this number to 0 in future years as we work for justice and the safety of all residents living in Houston. This is a city that has taken people to the moon, and yet we find ourselves dealing with this issue in 2019. And quite frankly, we can do better, we have to do better, and we must commit ourselves to doing better. And we must utilize our voice to speak for those 19 who are no longer here with us. We're also here in support of all the nonprofits in our region that work tirelessly to help the most vulnerable in our communities. And I want to thank each and every one of them. For many victims escaping abuse, a shelter will be their first safe haven. And we have to commit ourselves to providing that safe place quickly for them. From Galveston to Montgomery County, and of course right here in Houston, we have 7 women's shelters in our region, and I would like to say they represent the front line. They are the first responders in this regard, and I want to thank them for the tireless efforts that they do. We know that women ages 18 to 24 are the most vulnerable to abuse, and we urge anyone fleeing an abusive relationship to have a safety plan. And the most dangerous time for a victim is upon leaving and immediately after. There are agencies that provide free legal representation to end the cycle of abuse, as well as those that provide counseling so survivors can regain their lives and begin again. But we all must speak out. Men, women, we all must speak out. This cannot be something that any one of us can be silent on. From the mayor to city council members to elected officials in every category, we have to speak out. To athletes and entertainers, to academicians, those that in our colleges and universities, medical fields, whatever you name, we have to speak out. Because there is no one area that's immune and where this activity is not taking place. But we have to say no more. Not 19, not 9, not 5, not 1. Help is available for victims across our region, but I'm a firm believer that if we work together, if we stand up together, we can eradicate something that should not exist in our city, in our state, in our country, or anywhere on the face of this earth. This is a can-do city. Well, let's see if that can-do spirit can exist in this area when it comes to domestic violence. Thank you. Let's keep praying for a better place, a better city, a better day.
Now I'd like to bring to the podium Carbine Cloud, Special Victims Chief from the Harris County DA's office.
Good evening. It is truly an honor to stand here at this podium with you, Mayor, faith leaders, our colleagues, and most importantly, the families of so many victims who the Harris County District Attorney's Office is proud to represent and seek justice on their behalf as a result of them losing their lives to senseless acts of domestic violence. My name is Carvana Cloud, and I am a survivor. I'm a child survivor of domestic abuse, and I'm also a Harris County Assistant District Attorney and Bureau Chief of the Special Victims Bureau. I mention that because it's important to know that my lens as a prosecutor is one that is wrought with compassion, but aggressive legal advocacy, because I understand, after watching my own mother suffer from domestic abuse, just how important it is that communities come together to support women, men, and children in order to live a life free of violence and free of abuse. We all know that domestic violence knows no racial or socioeconomic bounds, and research shows, however, that domestic violence does disproportionately impact communities of color. Again, it's a reality that I, along with many of you, are all too familiar with. With me having grown up in Neighbors Homes community, a very impoverished community here in this great city, I understood that resources were very limited to women of color. Women and men who suffer abuse at the hands of their abusers. Research shows that due to certain cultural norms, language barriers, and just a general distrust of law enforcement, domestic violence is often underreported in communities of color. So in order to seek justice for everybody, the Harris County District Attorney's Office had a vision. And that vision was for us to partner with many of you in this room, agencies such as DIA, Harris County Constable Precinct 7, Anissa Hope Centers, and others, to create programs such as the Cultural Outreach Program, which is the Domestic Violence Protective Order Program, where we co-locate our caseworkers in agencies within the community. We are going beyond the four walls of the District Attorney's Office to reach those who need us the most, because that's what justice looks like. That's a justice for all approach. We are offering not only protective order education, but we're offering protective order services because we know that protective orders can be a very important tool to deter domestic violence. I'm also proud today to stand to talk to you about the Domestic Abuse Response Team. It's an amazing partnership between our office, the City of Houston's Houston Police Department, and Texas Forensic Nurse Examiners. Within minutes of 911 being called in select areas of this city, domestic abuse response teams immediately go to the aid of victims and provide crisis intervention and victim stabilization. We've learned, unfortunately, some very hard lessons from the lives of those men and women who lost their lives as a result of domestic violence, and we're working very hard as a result to create trauma-informed and culturally inclusive programs because, as the mayor said, one life lost is indeed one life too many. I'm proud that since January, the DART team has been in existence, and we've made over 830 crime scenes, and we filed over 240 criminal cases. The stark difference between those two numbers simply highlights the fact that the law enforcement community and the District Attorney's Office acknowledge that justice for survivors is not just about a criminal case, but it's more about holistic restoration in the wake of harm, which should really be the foundation of any coordinated community response. Together, our collective work, the blood, sweat, and tears, getting our hands dirty, the work of everybody in this room, can truly demonstrate that domestic violence homicides can be predicted so much as to be prevented. And ultimately, when we do that, we're able to transform victims into survivors. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Carvana. Especially for the efforts of the DA's office to defend defend victims, assuring them dignity and justice that they deserve. We're so proud to be part of that program at DIA. My name is Rachna Kare, and I'm the Executive Director of DIA. We empower South Asian survivors of domestic and sexual violence with free services to address their mental health, legal, and housing needs. We also conduct outreach and education across the community to end the cycle of violence. Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo sends her regrets. She could not join us tonight, but she wanted to share this proclamation with us. I'm going to read just a few lines of it. Whereas October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a time to raise awareness and inspire action to help end domestic violence. The Interfaith Advisory Council, a group of Houston area faith leaders and domestic violence agencies, seeks to build awareness about family violence in all communities. The Interfaith Advisory Council remembers domestic violence victims and celebrates survivors with a multi-faith vigil. In recognition of Houston's religious diversity, tolerance, acceptance, faith leaders from most of Houston's major religions will read aloud the names of those who have lost their lives to domestic violence in 2019, and the public is welcome to participate in showing their support. Judge Lena Hidalgo of Harris County hereby proclaims the evening of Monday, October 7th as an evening of remembrance, caring, and hope. We're very thankful for her proclamation. Faith communities, as we heard, serve on the front lines to support survivors. In most cases, the first outcry is to folks like you, their neighbors, their faith leaders, and their communities. In our diverse city, domestic violence does not discriminate. All faiths and all communities must take ownership of these preventable deaths. The members of the Interfaith Advisory Council come from numerous faiths, but we share a mission to break the silence and prevent domestic violence. Faith communities play a critical role in ending this public health crisis. As we learned, Houston has lost 19 of our own to domestic violence. Tonight, inspirational faith leaders are coming together to say that one life is too many. I invite Reverend Stephen Quill, one of my friends and colleagues, to lead us in the invocation. He then will introduce each of these incredible leaders to read the names of those that we have lost in 2019. Tonight is not only in memory of those victims that we'll read out loud, but of all the victims of domestic violence. On behalf of our diverse city, together we remember these victims. Your lives mattered, and we will learn from your existence. Thank you.
Let us gather together in prayer. Gracious and merciful God, we gather tonight as people who know you by many different names, but who trust that you can bring about healing and hope in the midst of chaos and pain. Be with the families of those who have been victims of domestic abuse. May our presence here tonight give these families the assurance that they are not alone, but you are with them through our presence. In your holy name we pray. Amen. On behalf of the Christian community, tonight we honor Travian Delaney, Adelena Diaz,
I am Neil Willard and I'm a Christian. This evening, however, I'm reading names on behalf of the Sikh community. And tonight the Sikh community honors Oliver Walter, Taisha Williams,
I am Sarah Ali, and on behalf of the Muslim community tonight we honor Marcus Mouton, Sierra Patino, Michael Thomas, Bernabé Torres,
Jewish community. Tonight we honor Patra Perkins, Pamela Pratt.
B.G. Raman. On behalf of the Ito community, tonight we honor Gillette Tran, Mara Westel, and Fuang Wang.
I am Shashank Jain. On behalf of the Jain community, tonight we honor Oscar Jose Reyes Alvarado, Adam Robles, Cindy Fajardo, Caitlin Goyardo,
I am Charlene Chuang. On behalf of the Buddhist community, tonight we honor Rochelle Salazar, Patricia Spive.
As we take this moment to remember these lives, it is upon us to now care for those that are living and carrying the burden of the loss. As a community, I just really want to urge us all to wrap ourselves around these families and be there for them, to support them. That's what we must do. And I thank our interfaith leaders for being that and doing that every day. And I thank all of the members of the community and the organizations who are working so hard to make a difference and to provide safety. Tonight is also about hope. So we remember those we've lost, we care for those that are here, and we hope that this doesn't continue in the future. There's a lot of research that's being done on hope, and Dr. Stephen Lopez, who's with the Gallup Institute, he's a senior scientist, gives his definition of hope. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like belief that the future can be better than the present, and knowing that we have the power to make it so. That's my hope. We have the power to make it so we don't stand here again next year reading names. I want to thank the Interfaith Advisory Committee. There are many of you standing in the room who have worked to put this together. Thank you all for working so hard to make this happen. I thank our partners. I thank our community organizations. I thank you as Interfaith Advisory or Interfaith leaders. And I thank you as family members for being here. Tell us what we need to do to make things better. Your voice matters. What you need matters. Find the people in this room that do the work and tell us what we need to do. We're here listening. I thank you all for being here tonight. There might still be snacks available if you're interested. There are advocates in the room who are here to support and help.
And if you're an advocate in the room, can you please raise your hand and let folks know that you're here? So find one of those folks if you need them. That's what we're here for. So I bid you all peace. Thank you.